It was another crisp autumn morning at New York Academy, an elite private school where the sons and daughters of America's wealthiest families walked the same marble-floored hallways. The air smelled of freshly fallen leaves and expensive cologne, and the school itself, a towering institution of old money prestige, stood like a monument to power, privilege, and untouchable status. Among its students was Barron Trump. Already a commanding presence at 6 feet 7 inches, he moved through the halls with effortless confidence, his stride measured, unhurried, his demeanor calm but unreadable. People noticed him. They always did. But despite the constant attention, the curious glances, the whispered conversations, the weight of his last name looming over everything, Barron kept to himself. He wasn't the type to boast. He wasn't the type to seek validation. He wasn't the type to engage in childish rivalries, but that didn't mean others saw it the same way. One student in particular had made Barron his personal target. At first, it had seemed harmless enough, just the usual power plays that happened in a school where every last name meant something. But this was different, because this wasn't about status. It wasn't about money. It was about something else entirely, and soon Barron Trump would have to face it head on. Ethan Prescott was the kind of guy who never went unnoticed. The son of a tech billionaire, he carried himself with the kind of arrogance that only came from never being told no. A sleek Rolex on his wrist, designer shoes that had never touched anything less than polished marble floors, and an ego the size of the company his father built. He was loud, he was flashy, and more than anything, he was used to being the center of attention. And today, he had his sights set on Barron Trump. It started in advanced mathematics where the air was thick with calculated pressure. At the front of the classroom, Mr. Calloway, their sharp-eyed, no-nonsense professor, scribbled a monstrous equation onto the board. A problem so brutally complex that even the top students hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances, shifting in their seats. Then the voice cut through the tension, loud, confident, meant to be heard. "Well, I guess we all know who won't be solving this one, huh?" A few students chuckled, some nervously, others genuinely entertained. Ethan Prescott leaned back in his chair, his smug smirk firmly in place as he tilted his head toward Barron. "I mean, let's be real. What do you actually have, man?" Ethan continued, his voice dripping with amusement. "Height? A famous last name? Good hair? Congrats. But genius? Nah, that's not in the Trump DNA." This time the laughter was louder. Barron, seated in the back, remained unbothered. Not a single reaction. No eye roll, no glare. Just the quiet rustling of notebook pages flipping, his pen tapping absently against the desk, which of course only fueled Ethan's arrogance. He wanted a reaction. He wanted a moment, and Barron wasn't giving it to him, so he pushed harder. "Oh, come on, big guy. Nothing to say?" Ethan grinned, nudging one of his friends. "I get it. Numbers are hard when your biggest flex is being born rich." The room erupted. Laughter. Eyes shifting between the two. Even Mr. Calloway, normally indifferent to teenage bravado, paused, watching carefully to see how Barron would respond. The game had been set. The challenge had been thrown. And now, everyone was waiting. The room was still buzzing with the echo of laughter when Mr. Calloway, who had been watching in silence, finally spoke. A cleared throat, a slight adjustment of his glasses, and then a challenge. "All right, Prescott, since you seem so confident, why don't you solve it?" He gestured toward the board, where the monstrous equation still loomed. A sudden shift in the room. The laughter died instantly. Ethan's smirk? Gone. His confidence? Wavering. But he couldn't back down now, not after calling out Barron Trump in front of the entire class. So with forced bravado, he strutted to the front, grabbed the chalk, and nothing. The numbers blurred. The formula didn't make sense. His heart pounded as he stared at the problem, willing his brain to make something click. The room sat in excruciating silence, every second stretching longer, heavier. His face reddened, the weight of expectation crushing down on him. 30 seconds felt like a lifetime. And then, the mask cracked. With a frustrated scoff, Ethan threw up his hands. "Psh! Whatever, man. This problem is stupid anyway. A weak laugh, a forced shrug, and then the final excuse. I mean, come on, even a math nerd couldn't. A sound cut him off, a chair scraping against the floor. All eyes turned to the back of the classroom. Barron Trump was standing up, calm, collected, completely unbothered. He stepped forward, his broad frame moving with purpose, his face unreadable. Then without a word, he grabbed the chalk from Ethan's hand, and in one smooth motion, he turned to the board. The entire class held its breath. Because suddenly the question wasn't about Ethan Prescott anymore. It was about Barron Trump. And what he was about to do next. Enter Barron. A slow, steady movement caught everyone's attention. Barron Trump stood up, not in anger, not in retaliation, but with a calm, deliberate presence that instantly changed the atmosphere of the room. No theatrics, no words, just action. He stepped forward, his towering frame making even the classroom feel too small for a moment. His strides were measured, unhurried, the kind of confidence that didn't need to be announced. And then, in one smooth motion, he picked up the chalk. Barron didn't hesitate, didn't pause to analyze the problem, didn't smirk, didn't gloat. He simply began writing. The chalk moved effortlessly across the board, numbers and symbols flowing together with a rhythm that was almost poetic. Every calculation, every equation, every complex fraction, solved, effortlessly, precisely, flawlessly. The students sat frozen, watching in stunned silence as Barron maneuvered through the problem with an ease that left even Mr. Calloway raising an eyebrow in admiration. 5 minutes. That's all it took. Then, silence. Barron set the chalk down, turned slowly, and met Ethan's stunned gaze. Not just correct, undeniably perfect. Ethan swallowed, the color draining from his face as he glanced at the board, then back at Barron. No way. There was no way. The class sat in awestruck silence, every eye bouncing between Barron and the board. The equation that had stumped everyone, now neatly solved in front of them. And Barron, unbothered, unshaken, as if what he had just done wasn't even a challenge. He took one step closer to Ethan, his voice calm, collected, razor sharp. I guess numbers aren't so hard after all. The room erupted. Ethan's jaw dropped. The arrogance, the bravado, the effortless confidence he had flaunted only moments ago was gone. His friends, who had been laughing, nudging each other, hyping up the moment, now sat frozen in their seats, eyes glued to the desk, looking at anything but Barron Trump. The energy in the room had shifted, completely and undeniably. Then a single whisper broke the silence. Damn! The professor's verdict. Mr. Calloway smirked. Arms folded, eyes twinkling with undeniable amusement. Well, well, looks like Mr. Prescott has been humbled. And here I thought you were the smartest in the room. The smirk vanished from Ethan's face. His ears burned. His pride was in tatters. He could feel the weight of every stare, the realization sinking in that he had just played himself. But Barron? Unfazed, completely, utterly unbothered. He didn't gloat. He didn't linger in his victory, didn't even spare Ethan another glance. He simply grabbed his notebook, walked back to his seat, and sat down, like it was just another day. But the message had been delivered, loud, clear, unforgettable. Ethan Prescott never ran his mouth about Barron Trump again. And as for his group of arrogant friends, they never dared to laugh at him again. Because in that one moment, with no insults, no shouting, no confrontation, Barron Trump had done something no one else ever had. He had silenced them, without ever needing to raise his voice.